Well, if you've been following along what I've been doing on the GV6, you'll see that everything's kind of all back together now. I'm sort of actually temporarily waiting for a couple more things to come in the mail before I can actually finally put it together for good. So you can see that I've got the Milano here in the shop now because I needed to scalp some parts off of it in order to convert this car to the Milano's fuel injection, namely being the distributor. And the Milano obviously runs on Motronic, as you can see here with the mass airflow sensor and electronic idle control, et cetera, et cetera. All the distributor does in this car is just spin. It doesn't do anything else. There's no weights. The sensor's not used. Nothing's plugged in. It's literally just a device which keeps the shaft in the engine as well as a distributor rotor on top to distribute spark. There's nothing else going on there. So I took the old weighted advance sort of distributor from the GTV6 and plopped it in here. I will just probably end up selling this because it's a good distributor, and I'll just gut a old junky Milano one and stick it on here in the future. Moving back to the GTV, you can see I've got the Hall effect all hooked up for the new system, all here. The wiring is all attached. Obviously, you can see this is the new plenum I had. You can see that it's one of the newer ones because it's got the 6C lettering. The early one that I used to have on here obviously doesn't. The main reason for changing the plenum, of course, being that there's ports in that thing that I need. There's ports missing in that old plenum that I needed, mainly being the idle adjustment, because on the new throttle bodies, this is actually the old one just temporarily attached. On the new throttle bodies, obviously the throttle position switch has to go here, which makes your idle adjustment needing to move over here. So anyway, you need to get a different plenum. Bottom line, let's not complicate things. The reason that I have the old throttle body attached to the new plenum is because I'm actually going to attempt to start this car now. I haven't started it, but everything is supposedly wired up and ready to go. And obviously you need a throttle body to test it out. So before I go any further and start buttoning things up for good, I'm going to just run the engine real quick, make sure it's all good to go, and then I'll pull everything apart again, get the plenum back on my table, so when my new style Milano throttle body comes, I can just swap that around. I've got the throttle cable disconnected from inside the car, so I'll actually have to use the throttle here to rev the engine, as the accelerator pedal will not do anything. None of the linkages are hooked up. Also, yeah, this is not even bolted down. This is just willy-nilly just popped on top of there with a rubber mallet. So we have the altitude compensation device and the relay set for the Bosch system kind of all moved from all over the place, all kind of into this one location. I got the main power center kind of squished over a bit. And then I've got all the wiring and ugly crap kind of underneath there, underneath the wiper motor. It looks like hell, but it actually looks a hell of a lot better than it used to. So it's an improvement nevertheless. Moving over here, you can see the new ignition system. We have a newer style igniter basically mounted to a Saab heatsink that I had laying around. That's like just a heatsink that you find on all those. This device obviously needs to be heat synced with thermal compound, etc. They do tend to get fairly hot with the 8 or whatever amps of current, or I don't even know how much current, a fair bit of current going through these coils when they're firing. We've got the ignition system all kind of hidden. You can't really tell that it's there, but it is. And we've got a whole bunch of other stuff cleaned up. I've got new plugs and new everything on this injection harness, so everything's all nice. That new crimper worked awesome for these types of connectors. We've got new connectors up here, up front too. It's just too bad that electrical tape just doesn't look, I mean, after everything gets, used a bit, the electrical tape tends to fade, so it doesn't look all shiny anymore, but. So the throttle position switch isn't going to do anything right now. I can just work it by hand as I'm testing things to make sure everything's all working. And then when my new throttle body comes, this should be good to go. So I've just put a battery in the back. And I'm going to just give this a shot. Another thing that may happen is because that distributor I just popped in there, I don't know what the timing is. I kind of just put it in at top dead center and kind of just went for a few degrees advance, just kind of by eyeball. So it may or may not start, but it's going to be fun to see nevertheless. So without further ado, let's go have a look. Keys. There we go. I saw the tack mounts, but unfortunately it didn't go. So it could be let's go sniff the tailpipe. Yeah, it's getting fuel. Definitely getting fuel. Well, at this point, it's a no start. Unfortunately, I disappointed you. So we will investigate the myriad of things that could be causing the no start. More than likely, it's probably just the ignition timing is all screwed up. Anyways, sorry to disappoint. You can give me a thumbs down in the video if you want.